The room feels different the moment her voice cuts through the silence. No raised tone, no shaking hands, no drama. Just a calm statement that lands heavier than shouting ever could. This feels like one of those scenes where the air changes, where something hidden slips into the light, and nothing looks the same after. This was the moment viewers did not expect, and once the words leave her mouth, there is no pulling them back. Something cracks right here. For years, the show trains everyone to look in one direction. Tears, hurt feelings, long talks about family and faith. But underneath all that, silence sits like a rule nobody names. You feel that silence in the pauses. You see that silence when certain topics never go anywhere. And now, suddenly, that silence gets challenged by the last person anyone expects to challenge it. Janelle steps forward, steady and direct, without anger, without theatrics. That alone tells you this moment matters. Here is where things turn uncomfortable. Janelle has never chased the spotlight. She avoids chaos. She swallows frustration. She keeps things practical. So when someone like that speaks, every word feels measured. Every pause feels intentional. This does not sound like bitterness. This sounds like someone who stayed quiet for a reason. And right there, another thought creeps in and refuses to leave. Silence like this does not grow on its own. Silence like this survives because someone benefits from it. Someone protects it. Someone expects it. That realization hangs in the air long after the scene ends. So the question no one asks out loud yet starts forming. If silence was not accidental, then who kept it in place? And why did that control start slipping now? For years? The show tells you who Robyn is before she ever tells you herself. She enters the family framed as gentle and careful. Soft voice. Slow tears. The wife who says she wants peace more than anything. From the start, cameras linger on her emotions. Long close-ups. Quivering lips. Apologies that sound sincere. You are meant to feel for her. And most people do. Early seasons shape her image with intention. She is shown as the outsider trying to fit in, the woman who worries about hurting others, the one who cries when voices rise. When conflict breaks out, she often looks overwhelmed, like she wishes everyone would stop fighting. That presentation matters because it teaches viewers how to read her. Sensitive, vulnerable, misunderstood. And it works. Many viewers spend years defending her. When tension grows between the wives, Robyn often appears as the calm center. She talks about unity. She talks about faith. She talks about wanting the family to survive. Those words stick. They soften her role in every argument. Even when decisions tilt her way, the framing suggests she did not ask for it. Watch closely, and you see how often sympathy flows toward her. When Cody grows distant from other wives, scenes cut to Robyn crying about how hard it all feels. When disagreements explode, her tears slow the room down. Nobody wants to look like the person who upsets her. That emotional response carries weight. It changes the temperature of every conversation. There's also the way the show positions her next to pain. Her struggles feel personal. Her sadness feels real. Viewers are invited to protect her feelings, even when bigger issues sit unresolved around her. Over time, this builds a pattern. Robyn reacts emotionally. Others adjust. The story moves on. And here's the quiet part many miss. Being seen as fragile gives you cover. When people see you as easily hurt, they hesitate. They choose their words carefully. They avoid confrontation. They stay quiet longer than they should. That does not look like control on the surface. It looks like sensitivity. So for years, the image holds. Robyn as the peacemaker. Robyn as the emotional one. Robyn as the wife caught in the middle. Viewers are guided to accept that version without much resistance. It feels familiar. It feels safe. But comfort has a way of blinding people. And the more you settle into one version of someone, the harder it becomes to notice what does not fit. Because once you accept that image, you stop asking whether anything is missing from it. Janelle has never been the loud one in this family. From the earliest seasons, she moves differently. While others argue in circles, she stays quiet. While emotions spill over, she steps back and thinks. The show presents her as practical, grounded, and steady. She talks about work. She talks about finances. She talks about responsibility. Rarely does she talk just to be heard. When conflict shows up, Janelle usually removes herself. She does not fight for camera time. She does not compete for attention. She does not escalate. Instead, she chooses distance, space, and silence. That pattern repeats season after season. Viewers learn to trust her because she does not exaggerate. When she says something hurts, it feels earned. Her loyalty also runs deeper than many realize. Even when she is clearly unhappy, she stays committed to the family structure. She defends plural marriage long after cracks appear. She supports decisions that do not always benefit her. She compromises more than she complains. That kind of loyalty matters because it shows restraint. It shows belief in something bigger than her own comfort. There are moments when her frustration slips through, but they are rare and controlled. A sigh instead of a shout. A blunt sentence instead of a rant. When she speaks, it sounds less like emotion and more like conclusion. That is why her words land differently. They do not feel impulsive. They feel processed. Over time, Janelle becomes the emotional counterweight to chaos. While others react, she absorbs. While others confront, she calculates. That does not mean she feels less. It means she manages more. And managing that much for that long comes at a cost. Silence is not the same as peace. Silence is often survival. That context is what gives her voice weight. When someone who avoids drama finally speaks, people listen. Not because she demands attention, but because she never has. Her breaking silence does not feel strategic. It feels necessary. It feels like the last option, not the first. This is also why her words do not come wrapped in accusation. There is no bitterness dripping from them, no need to convince. She states what she knows and lets it sit. That kind of delivery does not invite debate. It invites reflection. So, when Janelle finally says something that shifts the room, it signals more than disagreement. It signals that something fundamental changed for her. That the balance between staying quiet and staying honest finally broke. And when someone like Janelle crosses that line, it raises a question that cannot be ignored anymore. What happens behind the scenes that pushes the calmest voice in the room to speak at all? The fractures do not start with paperwork or quiet warnings. They start emotionally, long before anyone names them. You can see it in the way the family stops functioning as a unit and starts breaking into corners. Conversations shorten. Group scenes feel forced. The warmth that once held things together fades, replaced by distance that no one fully explains. Christine's exit becomes the first undeniable break. It is not just a wife leaving. It is proof that staying is no longer the default. Her decision exposes something dangerous. Choice. Once someone chooses themselves, the illusion of unity weakens. What was once framed as commitment now looks like endurance. And endurance only lasts so long. As this happens, Cody's behavior shifts. His patience thins. His tone sharpens. He speaks more in absolutes and less in understanding. Disagreements stop feeling like problems to solve and start feeling like loyalty tests. You can see frustration turn into defensiveness. Control replaces collaboration. The emotional temperature rises, even when words stay measured. At the same time, Robyn's position quietly strengthens. She is closer to Cody than ever. Her voice carries more weight in decisions. Her household becomes the center of gravity. This is not always said out loud, but it shows in patterns. Where Cody goes, who he defends, who he listens to when conflict erupts. Power does not always announce itself. Sometimes it settles in and becomes normal. With Christine gone, something else shifts beneath the surface. Her departure creates fear. Not fear of loss, but fear of exposure. When someone leaves, they take their silence with them. They no longer have a reason to protect the story everyone agreed to tell. That possibility hangs heavy, even if no one admits it. The remaining relationships strain under that pressure. Trust erodes. Conversations feel cautious. People choose words carefully. You sense that certain topics carry risk now. The family is no longer just managing emotions. They are managing narratives. This is when fractures deepen. Not because of loud fights, but because of what is avoided. What is not said, who is not included. Distance grows in the spaces between scenes. And the more the structure weakens, the more certain dynamics tighten their grip. Because when stability starts slipping, control often shows up disguised as protection, as order, as doing what is best for everyone. But that grip never lasts. It only holds until someone else decides they are done carrying it. And once that happens, everything that was hidden starts pressing forward. This is where the conversation takes a turn that feels unsettling, not because of legal language, but because of what it implies. The idea of an NDA does not enter like a courtroom threat. It enters quietly, almost casually, and that is exactly why it stands out. Families do not usually talk about silence this way unless silence has become valuable. Timing matters here. The family is already fragile. Christine has left. Trust is thin. Emotions are raw. This is not a moment of stability. It is a moment of risk. When people start leaving, stories start moving. Private experiences become public truths. That is when silence becomes something people try to protect. What makes this feel wrong is not the concept itself, but the context. This is a family built on shared lives and shared struggles, all filmed for years. Viewers have watched every argument, every tear, every breakdown. Suddenly drawing a line around what can be said feels out of place. It feels like a shift from openness to control. The focus is not on legal enforcement. There is no courtroom drama here. The weight comes from expectation, from pressure, from the unspoken understanding that certain things should not be discussed. Silence becomes a responsibility rather than a choice. That is where discomfort settles in. You can feel how unnatural that is within a family dynamic. Silence is no longer about protecting feelings. It is about protecting something else. Image, power, control of the narrative. And once silence is framed that way, it stops feeling mutual. The timing also reveals fear. Not panic, but concern. Concern that too much truth could escape. Concern that someone might speak freely once they are no longer bound by loyalty. When exits happen, silence loses its grip. That is when efforts to contain it begin. What stands out most is who benefits from that silence. Not everyone gains equally from things staying unsaid. Some people lose nothing by speaking. Others lose everything. That imbalance is what makes silence feel enforced instead of organic. And once you notice that, the picture shifts again. Silence stops looking like protection for the family as a whole. It starts looking like protection for one version of events. One perspective, one position of power. Because silence only becomes this important when it shields someone more than everyone else thought for a long time, the family is presented as a group of equal partners. Different personalities, shared values, collective decisions. That idea slowly unravels when you step back and watch who actually holds influence. Not who speaks the loudest, but who decisions bend toward. Once you see it, the structure starts to make sense in a way it never did before. Robyn's position is not built through dominance or confrontation. It is built through proximity. She is closest to Cody emotionally and physically. Her home becomes the place where he feels understood. That closeness matters more than any group discussion. Decisions begin to reflect that bond, even when they are framed as family choices. You see it in the patterns on screen, where Cody spends his time, whose concerns he prioritizes, whose feelings become urgent. When conflict arises, his alignment is clear. He defends Robyn instinctively. He reacts to others conditionally. That difference shapes everything else. As that alignment solidifies, other wives lose influence quietly. Their voices still exist, but they carry less weight. Suggestions become requests. Requests become frustrations. Frustrations become silence. This does not happen all at once. It happens slowly, through repeated moments where speaking up changes nothing. What makes this dynamic effective is that it rarely involves shouting. Control does not come from intimidation. It comes from emotional gravity, from being the person whose reaction matters most. When someone's feelings steer the room, everyone else adjusts without being told to. Over time, this creates an uneven system. One household sets the emotional tone. One perspective feels safest to align with. Others learn that pushing back costs energy they no longer have. So they retreat, they comply, or they leave. This is why the structure was never balanced. It only looked that way when everyone stayed quiet. Equality depends on equal power to influence outcomes. Once that disappears, the system relies on compliance instead of consent. And when emotional influence stops working, something shifts. When tears no longer quiet the room and closeness no longer guarantees agreement, control looks for another shape. Not louder, not harsher, just more contained, more formal, more strategic. That is the moment when power stops relying on feeling and starts relying on silence. Mary's position in the family has always felt fragile. Even in early seasons, there is a sense that she stands slightly apart. Her role shifts from central to uncertain, and that distance only grows over time. She appears alone in group settings. Conversations move on without her. Decisions happen around her rather than with her. The isolation is subtle, but it is constant. As her connection to Cody weakens, another bond becomes more visible. Mary grows closer to Robyn. She defends her. She trusts her. She leans into that relationship as other doors close. On screen, that attachment looks like loyalty and comfort. It feels like Mary finally has someone who sees her, who includes her, who listens when others do not. That makes her situation especially delicate. When you are isolated, belonging matters more. You hold tighter to the relationship that offers stability. You protect it. You avoid rocking that boat. Silence becomes a form of security. Speaking up risks losing the one connection that still feels safe. Mary's vulnerability is not dramatic. It is quiet and exposed. She stays even when she is clearly unwanted by the larger structure. She waits. She hopes. She accepts less than she deserves because leaving feels worse than staying. That kind of emotional position limits choice. It narrows options until silence feels like the only move left. This is why control does not need force here. It only needs expectation. When someone depends on acceptance, they censor themselves automatically. They do not need to be told what not to say. They already know. That is what makes the dynamic so uncomfortable to watch. What complicates this further is the illusion of protection. Loyalty feels like it should shield Mary. Her closeness to Robyn looks like safety. But proximity to power does not guarantee freedom. Sometimes it tightens the rules instead. Being inside the circle can come with more pressure, not less. Mira's silence serves a purpose. It keeps peace. It preserves access. It maintains the relationship she fears losing. But it also costs her voice. Over time, that trade becomes visible in her expressions, her posture, her hesitation. She speaks carefully. She pauses often. She chooses words that do not threaten. This is where the idea of enforced silence feels most real. Not because anyone is shouting or demanding compliance, but because the emotional stakes are so high. When silence becomes the price of belonging, it stops being voluntary. And that leads to an uncomfortable truth. Allegiance does not protect you from being silenced. In some cases, it makes silence expected. The shift does not arrive with shouting. It arrives quietly. Janelle sits there, steady, grounded, not rushed. Her voice does not shake. Her words do not spill out. She chooses each sentence with care, and that is what makes the moment land so hard. This is not a reaction. This is a decision. For years, Janelle avoids being the loud one. She steps back during conflict. She lets others argue while she stays practical. She focuses on work, on kids, on keeping things moving. Even when she is unhappy, she rarely makes it the center of the room. Viewers know her as the one who swallows frustration and keeps going. So when she speaks now, the tone matters more than the content. There is no rage, no dramatic pause, no tears meant to sway opinion. She states her experience like a fact. This happened. This was said. This is how it felt. That calm delivery carries weight because it is unfamiliar. If Janelle is talking, something serious has crossed a line. The power shift happens right here. Silence breaks, not in pieces, all at once. Janelle chooses herself over keeping things smooth. She stops protecting the system that stopped protecting her. And she does it without cruelty. That restraint makes the moment impossible to dismiss. There is an emotional payoff for viewers who waited for this. Many people sense something was off for years but never heard it named. Janelle gives language to that unease, not with accusations thrown wildly, but with clarity, the kind that feels earned. What hits hardest is how little she asks for sympathy. She does not frame herself as a victim. She does not dramatize harm. She simply refuses to carry silence anymore. That choice alone reshapes the dynamic. Power does not always belong to the loudest person. Sometimes it belongs to the one who finally tells the truth without fear. Her calm exposes contrast. Anger can be brushed off as emotion. Calm cannot. Calm forces listeners to sit with the words. There is no easy excuse, no distraction. The room changes when she speaks. The air shifts. People listen differently. This moment also reframes the past. Scenes viewers already watched take on new meaning. Pauses feel heavier. Avoided conversations feel intentional. The silence no longer looks accidental. It looks maintained. Janelle speaking does not just reveal information. It alters trust. Once she says it out loud, others are forced to respond. Not with emotion, but with accountability. And that is where control weakens. Control thrives in quiet. It struggles in daylight. There is also courage here. Janelle knows speaking costs something. She risks backlash. She risks being dismissed. She risks losing what little peace remains. She speaks anyway. That choice signals an internal shift. She is no longer managing the comfort of others at the expense of her own voice. This is why the moment stays with the audience. Not because it is explosive, but because it is clean, clear, final. Janelle does not threaten. She does not bargain. She simply states where she stands now. And once one voice speaks like that, the ground changes. Others hear permission. They feel it. The silence no longer feels mandatory. It feels optional. Once one voice speaks, others listen. The moment Janelle speaks does not stay inside the family walls. It leaks into living rooms, social media feeds, and group chats. Fans notice it immediately. Those who suspected something off for years feel a jolt of confirmation. Suddenly, what was whispered in speculation feels undeniable. People see the contrast between the calm voice of Janelle and the invisible hand that seemed to steer the family for so long. Viewers respond in patterns that are almost predictable. Some express relief, saying, "Finally, someone said it out loud." Others feel anger, wondering how Robyn could hold so much influence without ever appearing forceful. Some express sadness, reflecting on the wives who left or struggled silently. And most of all, many focus on the weight of silence itself. What was not said over the years now feels deafening. Robyn's quiet control, the careful shaping of public perception, now appears almost surgical. The reactions make sense because the show has built its audience on emotion, drama, and relatability. Fans know these women, have followed their lives for years, and carry memories of small moments that now take on a different light. They remember a pause here, a subtle glance there, and suddenly those instances feel deliberate, like pieces of a larger design. Robyn's silence throughout the unfolding chaos becomes the loudest element. Every unspoken word, every calm reaction on camera is now read as intentional. Her public persona as the gentle peacemaker is being reconsidered, not through accusation, but through the contrast of what is now voiced. Fans feel the tension of power and restraint, and that tension fuels speculation, discussion, and analysis across forums, comments, and reactions. This shift also changes the tone of the show itself. It is no longer only about family logistics or emotional ups and downs. It now carries the weight of agency, strategy, and hidden dynamics. Every scene filmed in the past takes on new layers of meaning. Moments once dismissed as minor now feel pivotal. The audience is compelled to rewatch, to reconsider, to read between the lines. The fallout is not only external. Within the family, the dynamics change subtly but dramatically. When fans react so strongly, the ripple reaches the family members who remain on screen. Their decisions, their alliances, and even their silences are reframed. Suddenly, the power of perception weighs as much as personal relationships. And in this environment, silence becomes a weapon and a risk. For some, it shields them, allowing control and discretion. For others, it exposes the gaps, the manipulations, the missed chances for honesty. Robyn's quiet once protected her influence, but the moment Janelle spoke, that protective silence started to unravel. Now everyone watches closely, weighing what is said and what is withheld, realizing that in this family, silence can either protect you or leave you exposed. With Janelle speaking, the story that many thought they knew suddenly feels different. Robyn's carefully maintained image of calm, kindness, and mediation no longer holds the same weight. The moments fans once interpreted as gentle or neutral now carry a sharper edge. It becomes clear that her role in the family went far beyond what appeared on camera. She was not just a voice among the wives, she was shaping decisions, managing outcomes, and quietly holding influence over every narrative that reached viewers. Christine's earlier choice to step away begins to make sense in a new light. What might have seemed abrupt or dramatic before now reads as foresight. She recognized a power structure that others tolerated or didn't fully see. Leaving wasn't about rebellion alone, it was about preserving her voice in a system where silence had been weaponized. Watching these dynamics unfold after years of observation reframes her actions, showing a clarity many viewers didn't notice in real time. Janelle's decision to speak carries the heaviest emotional weight of all. She has always been seen as the loyal, calm, non-dramatic presence in the family. Her words land because they are deliberate and measured. There is no outburst or theatricality, only the quiet, undeniable truth that cracks the illusion built over years. With her voice breaking the enforced silence, the power dynamics are revealed. The moment is not just a confrontation, it is liberation. Her choice challenges the structures that kept others compliant and reveals the depth of influence that was once invisible. For viewers, the takeaway is more than entertainment. It is a lens through which to reassess what they've watched for years. The friendly, peacemaker image is no longer sufficient to describe Robyn's role. Power was exercised quietly, strategically, and often without overt conflict. The family's narrative, as carefully curated on screen, was influenced by one person more than anyone realized. Moving forward, it raises questions that go beyond the episodes. Who really controlled the story inside the Brown family? Was Cody a facilitator or a participant in that control? How did other wives navigate that power without losing themselves completely? And what does it mean when silence is weaponized so effectively that only one voice can overturn it? These are not questions with easy answers, but they are the questions that define the future of how the family is understood. The moments of truth, revealed through calm words and deliberate choices, challenge viewers to reconsider assumptions about fairness, loyalty, and influence. So now, the story is yours to consider. Who do you believe truly controlled the Brown family, and why? Your perspective matters, because the dynamics are complex, the silences were long, and the revelations are only just beginning to settle. The conversation continues, and the power of observation has never been more essential.